I'm not a theater man.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni will join other African heads of state and their delegations in September 2024 in China for the China-Africa Summit.
Yes, the Chinese leaders are all very focused.
Ahead of the summit, the Chinese media channel CGTN is in Africa to profile prominent figures, with Uganda's President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni taking the lead.
We want to make sure that we come to the continent to find out more about Africa, the Africa that we see, we document, instead of the Africa that is on BBC, CNN, or the New York Times, or Fox News, or Breitbart.
The railway, the electricity. Now, here in Africa, part of the problem is that those aspects have not been addressed. The railway, the electricity has been not emphasized.
Wang Guan, a political and current affairs journalist at CGTN, interviewed the president at State House.
It doesn't address too much of the specifics, but he talked very strategically and very sincerely about the affinity of the two people, dating back all the way to the 50s, 40s, and 60s, even to the 1910s and 1920s, when we were both on the same boat fighting imperialism and oppression. So make no mistake, his affinity for China was real.
In an exclusive interview with us, Wang Guan shares his views on the benefits Africa can gain from the upcoming summit.
I wouldn't be surprised if three things can happen. Number one, I expect that to be a consolidation of countries in the global south to step up their efforts and consolidate and coordinate their action against an increasingly divisive and divided world, where some countries insist on having blocs, alliances based on ideology and so-called values that they think are superior.
Despite China being one of Africa's leading business and development partners, more efforts are needed to address challenges between the two regions.
So I think China can take criticism where criticism is due. When it comes to underpayment of local laborers, or underemployment or underutilization of laborers, I think China has been heeding those concerns from countries like Zambia, when the copper mining was an issue, or South Africa, when the environmental concerns were raised, or here in Uganda. I think I'll be happy to pass this information back to my think tank friends or to government friends. But on the other hand, I think Chinese are doing a lot of things to change this.
President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni hopes that the summit will unlock potential in the fields of infrastructure, business and sports.
As to the specifics, of course, he talked about trade. He hoped that there will be more exports from Uganda to China. He introduced coffee. He's a proud Ugandan in terms of having one of the largest coffee-producing countries in the world.
One further reaffirms that China, by meeting and engaging with African leaders, has no ambitions to politically dominate the continent.
I understand the frustration about that, and also there are allegations, innuendos about the Chinese coming here and doing similar things. But I think the allegation that China is a neo-colonialist power is far-fetched. First of all, just look at the simple fact. Which country outside Greater China area speaks Chinese as a first language? One, Singapore. How many countries outside the UK, as many good British friends as I have, Scottish? 80, according to Wikipedia. Why? Because during the era of expansion, where China is largely a regional power, focusing on developing its own society, improving its own livelihood, lifting 800 million people out of poverty.
The China-Africa Summit is a forum that brings together over 48 African countries under one roof to deliberate on issues ranging from geopolitics and business to security.
China, under the Communist Party of China, has been a partner in the anti-imperialist struggle. Now, when they have more capacity, they are working with us to develop equal relationships in trade, and they are doing the right things. As I've told you about the railway, if you build the railway, how can anybody say you are doing something wrong?
For Uganda, the president has delegated the vice president, retired Major Jessica Alupo, to lead Uganda's delegation to the September summit. Robert Onyango, UBC News.
They use both.